Brahmachari Ashram Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhami ki, Shri Shri Baladev ki, Brahmachari Ashram Bhāgavatam Morning Class. All glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru, all glorious to Shri Prabhupada, and all Vishnu Hare Krishna, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Morning Class. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Vishnu, Namaste Shri Ashtachi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, Text number 32. Instructions by Maharaj Prithu. Vinirudha Ashesha Manaha Malaha Puma Sangha Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yat Angri Mule Kritaketanaha Keshavaha Prapadyate Vinirudha Shesha Manomalapuma Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yadangri Mule Ketana Punar Dasam Sritim Kleshavaham Prapadye Dasam Sritim Kleshavaham Prapadyate Vinirudha Shesha Manomalapuma Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yadangri Mule Kritaketana Punar Nasam Sritim Kleshavaham Prapadyate Vinirudha Shesha Manomalapuma Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yadangri Mule Kritaketana Punar Nasam Sritim Kleshavaham Prapadyate Vinirudha Shesha Manomalapuma Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan Yadangri Mule Kritaketana Punar Asam Sritim Kleshavaham kleshavaham prapadyate.
Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate. Vinirta shesha manomala puman. Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan. Yadam vimule kritaketana punam. Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate. Vinirta shesha manomala puman. Vinirta shesha manomala puman. Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan. Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan. Yadam vimule kritaketana punam. Yadam vimule kritaketana punam. Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate. Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate. Vinirta shesha manomala puman. Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan. Yadam vimule kritaketana punam. Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate.
Vinirta shesha manomala puman.
Vinirta shesha manomala puman.
Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan.
Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan.
Yadam vimule kritaketana punan.
Yadam vimule kritaketana punam.
Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate.
Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate.
Vinirta manomala puman.
Vinirta shesha manomala puman.
Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan.
Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan.
Yadam vimule kritaketana punan.
Yadam vimule kritaketana punam.
Samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate.
Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate.
Ladies. Any ladies like to chant?
Vinirta shesha manomala puman. Asanga vijnana vishesha viryavan. Yadam vimule kritaketana punam. Na samsritim kleshavaham prapadyate.
Nirduta, being specifically cleansed.
Being specifically cleansed.
Ashesha,
Ashesha,
unlimited.
unlimited.
Manaha malaha,
Manaha malaha,
mental speculation,
mental speculation,
or the dirt accumulated in the mind. Puman, the person.
the person,
Asanga,
asanga,
being disgusted.
being disgusted,
Vijnana,
vijnana,
scientifically.
scientifically,
Vishesha,
vishesha, particularly,
Viryavan,
viryavan,
being strengthened
being strengthened
in Bhakti Yoga.
in Bhakti Yoga,
Yat,
yat,
whose,
whose,
Angri,
angry,
lotus feet.
lotus feet,
Mule,
mule,
at the root of,
at the root of,
Kritiketanaha,
kritaketanaha,
taking shelter.
taken shelter,
Punama,
puna,
again.
again.
No.
Na.
Never.
Never.
Samsritim.
Samsritim.
Material existence.
Material existence.
Kleshavaham.
Kleshavaham.
Full of miserable conditions.
Full of miserable condition.
Prapadyate.
Prabhadyate.
Takes two.
Takes two.
Translation per Sri Prabhupada. When a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding, mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of the threefold miseries. This continuation of this wonderful subject of the effects of taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. As stated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shastra instructions, by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Or, by the process of hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord, one's mind is gradually cleansed of all dirt. Due to our material association since time immemorial, we have accumulated heaps of dirty things in our minds. The total effect of this takes place when a living entity identifies himself with his body and is thus entrapped by the stringent laws of material nature and put into the cycle of repeated birth and death under the false impression of bodily identification. When one is strengthened by practicing Bhakti Yoga, his mind is cleansed of this misunderstanding, and he is no longer interested in material existence or in sense gratification. Bhakti, or devotional service, is characterized by vairagya and jnana. Jnana refers to understanding that one is not his body, and vairagya means disinterest in sense gratification. These two primary principles of separation from material bondage can be realized on the strength of Bhakti Yoga. Thus, when a devotee is fixed in the loving service of the lotus feet of the Lord, he will never come back to this material existence after quitting his body, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. There's a few verses like that, aren't there, in Bhagavad Gita? Do you know what? Who said that? Who said that? Back there. Prabhupada? Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? And there's a few verses. Chakrade hum punajana nati mamati surajana. The one who understands the transcendental nature of Krishna, his appearance, his activities, never comes back to this material world, but attains to the spiritual realm. The result, if you want to come back to this material world, be careful. In this verse, the word vijnana is specifically important. Jnana, the knowledge of spiritual identity that one attains when he does not consider himself to be the body, is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Brahmabhuta, the revival of spiritual realization. In the conditioned state of material existence, one cannot be spiritually realized because he identifies himself materially. Maybe you have some theory, but we can't be realized. theory is not enough. One has to realize the subject matter. The understanding of the distinction between material existence and spiritual existence is called jnana. After coming to the flat platform of jnana, or the Brahmabhuta stage, one ultimately comes to devotional service, in which he completely understands his own position and the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This understanding is explained here as vijnana vishesha. The Lord says, therefore, that knowledge of him is vijnana, science. In other words, when one is strengthened by scientific knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his position of liberation is guaranteed. In Bhagavad Gita 9:2, who knows this verse?
Raja Vidya, Raja Goyam.
Are you saying this one?
Raja Vidya, Raja Goyam, Bhavitramitam, Uttamam, Pratyakshavada.
Pratyakshavadamam dharmam.
Susukam Kartamam Vyayam.
Meaning?
This knowledge is the most secret of all secrets. It's the king of all education. It is the perfection of religion because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. And it is directly performed.
More or less. Here we'll take a few words. Purification, purity. 9.2. The science of devotion service is described as Pratyakshavadamam dharmam, direct understanding of the principles of religion by realization. By practicing Bhakti Yoga, one can directly perceive his advancement in spiritual life. In other practices like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, one may not be confident about his progress. But in Bhakti Yoga, one can become directly aware of his progress in spiritual life, just as a person who eats can understand that his hunger is satisfied. Our false appetite for enjoyment and lordship of the material world is due to a prominence of passion and ignorance. By Bhakti Yoga, these two qualities are diminished, and one becomes situated in the mode of goodness. Gradually surpassing the mode of goodness, one is situated in pure goodness, which is not contaminated by the material qualities. When thus situated, a devotee no longer has any doubts. He knows that he will not come back to this material world. That's the end of the purport. I don't know if any of you could relate the last, especially the last paragraph, the last two paragraphs, the whole purport, but especially the last paragraph, to a section of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, specifically. As we're discussing here, the taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and how we become cleansed of all unwanted desires by taking shelter of all misconceptions, by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. There's a very nice section in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and in relationship to the lotus feet is generally understood. You know, the first couple of cantos are the lotus feet of the Lord, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And Prabhupada has even described that one should read beyond these cantos, and that's when it's free from mundane sense value and sex desire. And of course we do, but in one sense we won't be able to enter into the subject matter or meditate on the rest of the form of the Lord as long as we're attached to the idea of enjoying material forms. Can somebody bring the first canto Bhagavatam, please? A very beautiful section of the first canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, about taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. We could ask the question before we read, does anyone like to suggest what it means to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord? We discussed some aspects yesterday, and maybe we touched on this, but not very much. Does anyone like to suggest something? What you understand, what it means to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord?
We discussed yesterday the following lotus discussed that taking shelter of the spiritual master's orders.
Nice quote, isn't it? And if we sing in the morning, we probably do, in the morning, in the songbook, you can find a song where we sing Guru Puja. What do we sing? Pardon? Guru Somebody read the songbook? We have one. Let's read it. Well, we just said it. The lotus feet of the spiritual master are the Hare. Shri Guru Charanam. What are they? The only way? The only way is to attain pure devotion. To attain pure devotional service. Shri Guru Charan. The next verse. Shri Guru Charan. Next one. What is that? The lotus feet of spiritual masters, slightly different translation, are the abode of pure devotional service. I bow down to those lotus feet with great care and attention. My dear brother, my dear mind, it is through the grace of the spiritual master that we cross over this material existence and obtain Krishna. Make the teachings from the lotus mouth of the spiritual master one with your heart, and do not desire anything else. Attachment to the lotus feet of the spiritual master is the best means of spiritual advancement. By his mercy, all desires for spiritual perfection are fulfilled. He who has given me the gift of transcendental vision is my Lord, birth after birth. By his mercy, divine knowledge is revealed within the heart, bestowing prema bhakti and destroying ignorance. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. O spiritual master, ocean of mercy, friend of the fallen souls, you are the teacher of everyone and the life of all people. O master, be merciful unto me and give me the shade of your lotus feet. May your glorious name be proclaimed throughout the three worlds. Slightly different translation, same essential meaning. Taking shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, that's one point. What's another aspect of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord?
Surrendering everything to Krishna. Surrendering everything to Krishna.
I guess we could include everything really. Usually after the process of hearing, chanting and remembering, naturally the process of taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna as our only shelter. And there's a verse in the 10th canto of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam spoken by Lord Brahma. There are several verses. I can't remember. Samasati ye parapalava pavam mahatpadam punya yishomarari pavam vidyavatsa param 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 yapitam. That this material world is a very, very dangerous place. At every step. We discussed a little of that yesterday, we're carrying on the same vein. That we sometimes forget this material world is a dangerous place in one sense. You will see it differently. The dangerous in the sense we forget Krishna. we can get carried away in the ways of the material world. So this verse describes how at every step there is danger, and we can be carried away in a moment, except for those who take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And Prabhupada describes how those lotus feet are like a boat, a safe boat, which can carry us across the ocean of material existence. Why I liken to a boat is a very relevant example, because a boat is above the water. It appears to be on the water, but it's not in the water exactly. It's floating on the water. So the lotus feet of the Lord, or the lotus feet of the spiritual master, we could say to be more, closer to where we are, they're available. They're the boat which can carry us across this ocean of material existence. Otherwise we're going to most likely drown in this ocean of material existence. We're taking shelter of that boat, of the lotus feet of the spiritual master. We discussed a lot about that yesterday, what the effects of that are, and various statements and so on and so forth. Because the lotus feet of the Lord are transcendental. They appear to be in this world. Jesus Christ himself said, we're of this world but not in it. We're in this world but not of it. Same thing. The pure devotee appears to be in this world, but he's not of this world. He's of the spiritual world. He's coming in this world to give us shelter, to give us that boat. So taking shelter of the spiritual master literally means taking shelter of the instructions of the spiritual master. The opportunity is mentioned here. This is how Bhakti Yoga is possible to practice in the pure sense of the term, as we just heard from Brahmachari Ashram, Sochiti, and Kamshati. One has to be on the spiritual platform to practice Bhakti Yoga. But I'm going to say the pure devotees of the Lord, they give us a chance, through their grace, to engage in activities which purify us. Even though we may not be on the Brahmachari platform, they give us an opportunity to engage in all kinds of services. It's the value of the association of the pure devotees. And they engage in all sorts of activities, which are basically taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, paying obeisances, circumambulating Tulsi Devi, visiting holy places, taking charanam, parikrama, so many things are there, and practical terminology also. But normally we think it means the humility of taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. I'm going to read something a little bit here, if you bear with us. This is very nice. This is by Bhaktivedanta Thakur. So he says here, those who are fully absorbed in Lord Krishna and carefully serve his lotus feet, in a humble state of mind entering our service, when we hear really properly the topics of the holy name of Krishna, when we hear Krishna Kirtan, it evokes a feeling of complete humility, dependence, and helplessness, a feeling of we have no other shelter other than the holy name and the lotus feet of Krishna. So those who are fully absorbed in Lord Krishna and carefully serve his lotus feet, the same thing is mentioned here, carefully, with care and attention, day and night cross beyond the dark ocean of ignorance and obtain the most auspicious abode of the Lord, which is rare even for the great sages to achieve. Those who serve the lotus feet of Sri Krishna with full attention never again become absorbed in the ocean of material existence. They are never defeated by the threefold miseries, and they conquer the 5 kinds of distresses. What are the 5 kinds of distresses? We hear 3 kinds of distresses, 4 kinds of distresses. Knowledge of the absolute truth automatically manifests in their hearts. The lotus feet of Sri Krishna are served by those who are always steady, grave, tolerant, and devoid of pride in their own bodies. Then we go daily worship of the Lord. In so many aspects of daily worship, we should so much, just like now when we was the Queen Kunti, when she was approaching the Lord, isn't it? She meditated first on the Lord's lotus feet, and then gradually up like that. This is the humility. We start at that point. We don't jump to the top. Bhagavatam's a saying, as we heard just now, first 2 cantos Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We start at the lotus feet. We don't jump to the beautiful smiling face of the Lord. We take shelter of the lotus feet. Very important. And how we take shelter of the lotus feet, we can now read that section which we mentioned without saying which one it was. But this is in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, and this is the 2nd chapter, which more or less contains, in a nutshell, the essential features of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and the effects of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And if we're going to study, learn verses from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, this 2nd chapter, I remember when we were on traveling Sankirtan in 1972 in England, and we had an amazing Sankirtan party traveling around England, doing book distribution, Hare Sankirtan, university preaching, prasadam distribution, Sunday feast program. We had it all on our traveling Sankirtan party. It was really exciting. And every morning we would learn a verse from this 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. And it starts off, because we can't just jump into it. There's the process of taking shelter of the lotus feet. A process that's herein is literally manifesting here in the Bhagavatam through Sutta Goswami, that he offered in his respectful obeisances unto that great sage, unto the sources of his inspiration. He's offering his obeisances, he's taking shelter. He knows, on my own, I have no eligibility or no empowerment. It's all by the mercy of my spiritual master, spiritual masters. Taking shelter of them is the secret. Even the sages of Naimisharanya, if you see in the 1st chapter, it'll be text 15, I think. 1st chapter, let's see. And we didn't, I was looking for that verse yesterday, I couldn't remember it. And then it occurred, here it is. This is text 15. Yat pada samshayak sutta monayat pasamayanaha satyapunam kyapaspishta parunyako nusevaya. Oh Sutta, these are the sages of Naimisharanya. They're humbly approaching Sutta Goswami. This is taking shelter. Please give me shelter. Please deliver me from this material world. We're in ignorance. We don't know what the goal of life is. This is the humility. I don't know. This is Sanatana Goswami approaching Lord Chaitanya. They call me a learned sage. I don't know. I don't know who I am. I'm a fool. Please, please enlighten me. I take shelter with the scorn of mouth. He fell down at the lotus feet of Krishna, Lord Chaitanya. O Sutta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the water of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use. That's what we were referring to yesterday. Here's the actual verse. We went to another verse similar. But this verse is so wonderful. Verse, pure devotees of the Lord are more powerful than the water of the Ganges. One can derive spiritual benefit out of prolonged use of the Ganges water, but one can be sanctified at once by the mercy of the pure devotee of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita it is said that any person, regardless of birth, whether Shudra, woman, merchant, whatever, can take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and by so doing can return home back to Godhead. To take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord means to take shelter of the pure devotees. The pure devotees whose only business is serving are honored by the name Prabhupada, Vishnupad, which indicates such devotees to be representatives of the lotus feet of the Lord. Anyone, therefore, who takes shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee by accepting the pure devotee as his spiritual master can be at once purified. Such devotees of the Lord are honored equally with the Lord because they are engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord. And for they deliver out of the material world the fallen souls whom the Lord wants to return home back to Godhead. Such pure devotees are better known as vice lords according to revealed scripture. The sincere disciple of the pure devotee considers the spiritual master equal to the Lord, but always considers himself to be a humble servant of the Lord. This is the pure devotional path. So that's the approach to actually get realization. Knowledge comes from the spiritual master, but the realization is by his grace. So we're going to read now some of those instructions. First of all, Sutta Goswami is answering now these inquirers, the inquisitive sages of Brahmachari. He's now answering them, and he starts off by offering his obeisances to Sukadeva Goswami. Then he offers his obeisances to the spiritual masters, so on, all great person, even to so many offering obeisances. That's in the first canto. So he's offering his obeisances here to more. And he offers Narayana Rishi, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Vyasadeva, and so on. Before he begins, very humbly, this is the environment comes when we have the humility. The Lord, even if we know the verses, we know the knowledge theoretically, the effect will not be there, the purity will not be there. The purity is the total surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. We are pure devotees. So we become purified by taking shelter of them. So then he explained these wonderful verses here. I'll explain. First of all, O sages, I've been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. Now we get into the subject matter. These are the answers. The supreme occupation, dharma. I think, remember, it was mentioned the other day, this word dharma. And different people maybe interpret or understand it differently. But here it's the supreme occupation. Their eternal sanatana dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be sorry? Motivated and uninterrupted to somebody else?
Fully satisfied self.
Completely satisfy the self. Completely. There's only partial satisfaction. In the material world it's flickering, terribly flickering. And even in spiritual life it's something's there. It is partial because we're not unmotivated, uninterrupted. By associating with someone who's taking shelter of his infallible lotus feet of the Lord, then we can also develop this unflinching devotional service. The next verse, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of God, this is very related to today's purport. This is a famous verse. They're all famous. Everyone. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Yogitaha. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires, what does he acquire? Give the others a chance. Janyatyasu Varagyam Jnancha, right to come. That was the day's purpose. That by taking complete shelter of devotional service, one becomes bhakti and renunciation and knowledge automatically comes. One immediately acquires causeless knowledge. Causeless, it's not caused by material things, it's mercy of Krishna. He gives the real knowledge. Real knowledge. Jnana is one thing. Jnana is another. Krishna gives that Jnana, we heard in the first one. and knowledge and detachment. Because why? Well, how do we become detached from this world? Do we have to make a separate endeavor, realizing it's the source of misery? Is that the process? What do you think?
No,
Realize it.
no, it's by rendering service. Knowledge and detachment again by rendering service to the Lord.
That's what it states here in the verse, basically. But what is a devotee's process? Is it like an artificial endeavor? Not artificial, maybe with some knowledge, this material was the source of suffering. He's not duty or any is a source of suffering. Do we therefore say, it's like, fighting against the material energy, trying to analyze it all? Is that our process?
The higher taste of the lotus feet.
That's the idea, isn't it? That we're absorbed in this higher taste and deep, but the absorption, becoming absorbed in devotional service, absorbed in hearing and chanting about Krishna, absorbed in our service, and so many different aspects. It's, the Lord is giving us ways we can become absorbed, even his pastimes. Prabhupada said, Krishna performed so many wonderful pastimes. Why? Of course, it's for his pleasure, but why does he reveal them in the material world? What for?
To attract the souls. To attract.
To attract, okay, it's good. There's maybe many answers, but I'm thinking of this thing I want to know. So I said, so we have something to think about. There's so much to think about, isn't it? So many pastimes. Philosophy, pastimes, Bhagavatam, so many Chaitanya, Charitamrita, so many things, so many pastimes, so many. There are great devotees have written so many books. And from sense, so you have something to think about. Otherwise, what are we going to think about? What do you guys think about? Maybe better not say what we're going to think about. Better we think about Krishna. Somehow related to Krishna. The whole idea of this process is so that we become, we start to think about Krishna. We start to remember it in different ways. It may be focusing on our practical service. Is another form of the lotus feet of the Lord. And take shelter of the lotus feet, that boat, get on board, don't jump overboard, be absorbed in what we're doing on board the boat. You won't be so distracted by what's going on outside. You see people on their computers sometimes, right? Maybe even yourselves. So absorbed. Anything could be going on. Whatever. And if eventually you distract their attention, where am I? What's going on? You've been so absorbed in the subject matter, whatever it is. So absorbed. Materially. Spiritually, you have to also become absorbed in that service. That's taking shelter. Lotus feet of the Lord. This is it. It comes. Devotional service. So automatically one becomes detached, because if we're attached if your cup is full of one thing, there's no room for the other thing. We're holding it, we're holding on. To Krishna consciousness, no room for material absorption, material engagement. To become fully engaged. It may take a little while, but that's the idea. And knowledge, revealed knowledge. It's automatically, this is the highest knowledge. As Raja Vidya, we just heard, the body was quoting, Raja Vidya, Raja Guyan, it's the king of all knowledge. This devotional service is a fruit. The purpose of knowledge is to understand Krishna. That's revealed through how? Through devotional service. It's a revelation. Of course, there's knowledge. The process of devotional service is certainly not the word of knowledge, but that knowledge is a devotional service. So that's knowledge is there in the Bhagavad Gita, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. You don't need to make a separate endeavor trying to analyze this thing and that thing. You can do that in regards to bhakti, but you don't need to do it separately. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much pardon? Useless labor if they do not attraction for the message of the personality of God. That's very interesting. I just love to read this. It's one of my favorite things. Excuse me, just trying to wake myself up here. Prabhupada describes here. How will they understand, Prabhupada saying, when he arrived in New York, in Boston rather, in his Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, preaching Krishna consciousness in America, we can see the actual success of our movement in this particular poem of Srila Prabhupada, because he's humbly, with all humility at his command, he's taking shelter at the lotus feet of the spiritual master, Krishna. Just to read a few verses. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service, O Lord? I am simply praying for your mercy, so that I will be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have come under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from their clutches of illusion. Many different ways of looking at that. We may have a desire for the fulfillment of our desire. We depend wholly and solely on the mercy of Krishna. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. If you so desire. The words of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam are your incarnation, and if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message. And Prabhupada quotes these verses, which you just mentioned. He will become liberated from the influence of the mode of ignorance and passion, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore I am seeking your benediction, so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Is understanding the message, Prabhupada is emphasizing here. So it's so much useless labor if it doesn't provoke an attraction for the message. Even our own devotional service, Bhaktivedanta says that sadhana means that which helps us to develop an attraction for the messages of the personality of God, or for chanting the holy name, performing pastimes of the Lord. And if our activities do not help us to develop an attraction, it says they're an obstacle in the path of bhakti. The whole purpose of this movement is based around this principle, to develop an attraction for the personality of God, for hearing and chanting about the personality of God. Next verse. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for, what are they meant for? All occupational engagements are certainly meant for economic development, sense gratification. What are they meant? Yeah, that's correct. But what does it say in the Bhagavatam? You've got the Bhagavatam in front of you. Anybody else? They are meant for ultimate liberation. Not just liberation, ultimate. What's the ultimate liberation? To be situating one's eternal constitutional position, isn't it? And we just heard here as a servant of the Lord. Gopi Bhaktivedanta Kama, Dasa. Ultimate occupation. Occupational engagement should never be performed for. Pardon? Did it say that? What does it say in the Bhagavatam? Material. Very good. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain for cultivating sense gratification. It's the same thing. Remember, I mentioned that economic development, sense gratification, like that. We tend to do that, don't we? We do our duty. Maybe it's according to religious principles, but it's to get economic returns. And then we use it for sense gratification, isn't it? He gets the money, you're thinking, how can I enjoy now? Let me go down to the city and see what I can buy, something for my pleasure. Go on holiday, let me look, see Hawaii, everywhere. Life's desires, this is another more famous verse, life's desires should never be directed toward sense gratification. They should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or
self-preservation.
what was he saying?
Prasada.
Pardon?
Prasada.
Prasada. Very good answer. Somebody gave a very good answer there. One should develop a healthy life and prasada. Simple life. Healthy life. Self-preservation. In other words, maintain Brahmachari, body, mind and soul. Maintain, not what is required, not which is required. Since a human being is meant for sense gratification. Human being is meant for? Yes, meant for inquiring about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's work. Everything should be directed for that purpose. To inquire about the absolute truth. But all our energy, if at all going into the realm of so-called knowledge, is inquiry about the relative truth, isn't it? Literally, our relatives, the material world, that which is related to us in our present condition. Whereas the pure devotees are trying to give us an opportunity to connect or to understand or to enter into the absolute realm. So there's a nice verse. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance. What do they call it? Brahman. Step 1. Paramatma, step 2. And Bhagavan, step 3. It's not 1, 2, it's 1, it's all 3. Learning transcendentalists know all 3. They don't just stick at 1. They know all 3. Now here's a very relevant verse to today's purport. The seriously inquisitive sage, the same was Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya, I mentioned. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. What a heavy kind of verse, many things contained in it, so to speak, but the realization of the Vedas, given by Krishna ultimately, but by taking shelter of devotional service, he has knowledge, detachment, he can engage in devotional service, he has knowledge that this material world is not our real home, that we're not this material body, that a goal of life is not sense gratification. He's very inquisitive now to find out what more, so he's taking shelter of devotional service, which means taking shelter of the pure devotees, and that realization of the absolute truth. And he hears the realization, the process of realization, I would emphasize, is through the process of hearing attentively. Attentive hearing, what it describes, 3rd chapter of this book, Bhagavatam. That one can realize Krishna in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. The next verse, O best among the choice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation, according to caste divisions and orders of life, is to, what is the highest perfection one can achieve by following Varnashram.
Make Krishna happy.
Yeah, Samsiddhi Hari Krishna. Please the personality of Godhead. That's the highest perfection. It's not about pleasing ourselves, pleasing our community. That may be there, that's automatically a secondary thing, but the highest perfection is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, next verse. Now, Srila Goswami is now giving you, say, the methodology. Therefore, with somebody else besides Dhruva, please. Somebody else. Therefore, with what? one pointed attention. You ever see after with one pointed attention, one should what? Pardon? One should constantly
hear about, glorify,
yes. Glorify. Yes. What else? Huh? Are you getting a clue from your friend there? Huh? Besides Dhruva Prabhu, you have to keep quiet. Hear about, glorify,
remember,
worship, but what before worship?
Remember.
Now that's interesting, it's the same vein we just heard. Hearing, chanting, remembering, and worshipping the lotus feet. They go 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. Same things mentioned here. Hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead. Who is the? What is he? I mean, we can say millions of things, couldn't you? But in this verse, what does it say?
benefactor.
Pardon?
Benefactor.
Benefactor? It's good, it's correct. It's not what it says here, though.
Protector.
Protector. Is that what it says on your mobile phone? Is it?
Yes.
Protector of the devotees. Mobile phone knows it all. Google's also very good. You're a Google guru. Google Goswami. The next verse. With something in hand. What in hand? Japa beads. Japa beads in hand. You don't necessarily take this literally. What does it say? With? Pardon? You could say knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, I'm with yoga. Stand and fight. But what does it say here? With in hand, sword in hand. So you all have to get swords now. You have to approach your temple commander and ask for a sword. With sword in hand. It says it in the Bhagavatam. It's a fact. Right there in the Bhagavatam, with sword in hand. Intelligent men cut through. What do they cut through?
Not in the heart.
They cut through what? They cut through the butter? No, they cut through. What do they cut through? Other than Dhruva. They cut through? Ignorance. You're not, yeah, it's correct in one sense, but specifically it says here, they cut through, there's differently worded in different editions, but here it's nice and easy to understand. They cut through the in the material world, we're all tied up, we're all bound up. That's the understanding. The goodness, we're the goodness. So, intelligent men with sword in hand cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma. They cut that knot. And how do they do it?
With knowledge.
Huh?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, you could say, but here it's mentioned. Nice to remember these verses. I'm giving you a clue. No, I just said it, remembering. By remembering the personality of Godhead. This is the method. Remembering Krishna, it cuts the knot. This is the sword in hand. This is the yoga. This is the bhakti. Remembering Krishna, it cuts the knot. Therefore, who will not? Who will not what? Who will not? Pay? Who will not pay? Pay who?
Pay attention.
Pay the Pujari? Who will not pay the Pujari? Who will not pay the temple press? Who will not pay me? Who will not pay what?
Attention.
Attention! Who will not pay attention to?
His message.
The messages of Godhead, to his message. Krishna's message. You will not pay attention. You have to be a fool not to pay attention. We're all fools, maybe. Everyone said that we're killers of the self, or never flesh. We're not attracted to this message because we're attracted to other things. Oh, twice-born sages. Now we're getting into it. Oh, twice-born sages, by serving who?
Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Pardon?
The Supreme Personality of
here.
Godhead?
Huh?
By serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Ultimately, but that's not, we're not at that stage. We're conditioned souls. We're trying to get out of the binding knots of material reaction. By serving those, by serving those, by serving those, who? Pardon? Serving who?
Or detached from sense gratification.
That's it?
We're detached from sense
Detachment?
sense gratification.
Yeah, that's true. But by serving those, what are we going to serve? Who are we going to serve? Who will you serve?
Servants of the Supreme Personality.
Yeah, but we're not at that stage. That's what I already mentioned.
Serving those who have
That's
great
a very
taste
big
for,
jump. Pardon?
serving those who have great taste for the service.
Yeah, like that. By serving those devotees, who are completely free from all vice. They have they're nivrit to tarshir. They're free of all material affection. They're pure. They've taken firm shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. By serving them, what happens? Great service is done. This is the greatest service. By such service, what happens? Who knows? So none of you have done Bhakti Shastriya, I assume. This is one of the most important verses in the whole Bhagavatam. One gains affinity for hearing what? The messages of the personality of Godhead. This is the secret. By serving the pure devotees, those who are freed of all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains an affinity for hearing the messages of the personality of Godhead. This is all by the mercy of Krishna. As long as we are covered, our heart is covered with other desires, with material goals, and so on and so forth, we cannot develop this attraction. So the mercy of Krishna is He cleanses our heart, He takes us away. Taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord means we're taking shelter of the instructions of the spiritual master and we're putting them into practice in our lives. It's not just about knowing what they are, it's executing those instructions. That's what cleanses our hearts. As we'll see, Sri Krishna, another famous verse, the personality of God who is paramount in everyone's heart and a benefactor of the truthful devotee, one who's honest, one who's taking his rightful position and humility. Krishna cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee. He cleanses that desire. For one who has developed the urge to hear his messages. So at different stages, in the beginning, it may be, we see that immediately we're absorbed in service, we stop doing this, that, and the other. So in that sense, we become cleansed and we're able to engage in service because we're not engaged in nonsense activity. However, the proclivity or the tendency for material enjoyment is still there. It hasn't been removed at the root. One has to get to the root. So the root is removed when we develop. After serving the pure devotee, and some anarthas are removed so we can engage in attending Bhagavatam class, reading the books and so on. But still we see there is a tendency within our heart to see ourselves in the center, to enjoy the material world. But when we actually start to develop a real taste for hearing and chanting more and more, that taste, then Krishna then removes the desires for material enjoyment from our heart. Someone who's developed an urge that will be a little spontaneous in our attraction. It's time to hear the Bhagavatam, it's time for class. And usually we look and think, is there anything else I can do besides go to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam class? Japa, well, I can do that later. Maybe there's something else I need to do now. Oh, reading the books, I've read them already. Let me think of something else to do. But one who's developed his urge will hear it again and again. As we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya he wants to hear it over and over and over again. again, the same thing. His hairs are standing on end. He's being exhilarated every moment, hearing the topics concerning the personality of God as spoken by him, who is devout, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Those people will miss the point after you properly heard. And now the practical thing, and directly related to the last purport, by regular attendance in classes. It doesn't always say that. It says by regularly hearing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And sometimes here it says classes on the Bhagavatam, but this name said hearing the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And by rendering of service to the pure devotee. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost so hearing the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and rendering service to the pure devotees, these two things especially. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Because we're still in contact with the material, there will always be some fine trace. That depends on the ultimate mercy of the Lord to remove that. And loving service unto the personality of God, in whose breakthrough transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. It means it can't go backwards. You don't go backwards again. It's irrevocable. So when something's irrevocable, you can't take it back, right? It's it. It's finished. It's too late. Can't go back. So when it comes to this point, one cannot go back, as today's word said. One will not come back to this material world. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. That's exactly what was today's purport was saying. Thus established in a mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive, scientific knowledge. And exactly the same word Prabhupada mentioned here, the jnana in the verse means scientific knowledge. This is the real scientific knowledge, not the relative scientific knowledge of the mundane world, but scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. The man whose mind has been enlightened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in a stage of liberation from all material association. The last verse we're going to read here, I think maybe two more. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces with that sword of knowledge. Cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive action is terminated when one sees the self as master that can be taken. We see the Supreme Lord or even the living entity as being superior or above this material world of birth and death, this relative world. The soul is above. We're supposed to be the master, not be under the control. Certainly, therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentals have been rendering devotional service to Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with great delight, because such devotional service is enlivening to the self. Wonderful verses. And you can also read Queen Kunti's wonderful prayers about taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So nice. Verses in the 7th. What chapter is that? Queen Kunti's prayers? 8. Chapter 8. Read chapter 8 of the first canto and enter into this mood of humility and sincerity and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. We were discussing yesterday when we sometimes realize we're in distress. We take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. God save me. Oh my Lord, please help me. I've been trying everything I can to do it without you, but I've not made it. Please help me. I lost everything. And sometimes when we're in distress, we take shelter. So she's praying for these situations also. I'm trying to discuss it. Or we could read those verses too. Beautiful verses of Queen Kunti. How to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Jai. Any questions? Any questions or comments?
Maharaj, when we go on Harinam and distribute books, how is that taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord?
Well, it can be on many levels, I would say. First of all, if you're going out there distributing books on Harinam, you're probably going out because you've received some direction at some point in time to do it. Probably. It doesn't usually have much chance. Sometimes a person's on the street, unknowingly they engage. We had one man in, I don't know what you call them here, bums. Street vagant, crazy guy, whatever, I don't know, he was on the street bumping everyone up for money. And he came up to one of the boys and said, hey man, hey, give me some money, come on. Because all the boy was collecting money and saying to him, give us some money. I said, and the boy said, well, I don't really have any. But he said, but if you tell them to take these books and sell the books, then we'll see. So this crazy guy started helping us sell books. And he actually kept stopping people, hey, buy this book here, give me some money, buy this book. So, I mean, he gave, I said, the boy, another boy gave or something. He unknowingly he was engaged, he had no idea. But generally the boys are going out to distribute books or going on Harinam Sankirtan because they're receiving some instruction, which is coming from the lotus feet of the Lord. The instruction is coming from the lotus feet. Now, that's on one level, even if we're not conscious. On another level, we may be conscious that this service, devotional service of distributing books, we're chanting the holy name of Krishna. It's not just something we do, full stop. We just have that kind of a relative relationship. It depends on our consciousness. I mean, the Buddha distributing books is constantly taking shelter of Krishna. He's not just trying to find ways of distributing books. That's indirectly also, but he actually taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna as an instrument. We just saw. Do what you want when I take complete shelter. I am an instrument. If you want this message to be understandable, make my words suitable. So the Lord is taking shelter like that. It's a great opportunity. It gives you a challenge. It's difficult on Harinam Sankirtan. We're taking shelter of the holy name, just trying to hear the sound of the holy name, trying to chant with all our life, our heart and soul, trying to chant the holy name. So it's also taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. That's a stage of consciousness which may be a little higher. So at different levels that may be seen that one's taking shelter of the lotus feet. Anything else?
We read the verse about unmotivated devotional service, but over a period of practicing, motivation trying to come in, and we tend to prove ourselves that we can do it, or prove it to others.
Yeah. And artists in your path of devotional service are very much. They're also described as initial artists, which we already have baggage, which we're aware of, which we bring with us, which may be quickly, let's say, removed or reduced. But then there are artists which may crop up in the practice of devotion. So that was described here, that one has to, this attraction, this intense hearing and chanting the messages of personality of God. It removes those tendencies for these pride and other aspects of which may manifest. They're already there in the process of devotional service. They may come up in the name of devotional service. These may come up. They may look just like devotional service. So intensive hearing and chanting about the message of the personality of God from the right source, properly heard and chanted, can remove these vestiges or these tendencies to become very proud, or whatever it may be, which may manifest in offensive behavior and critical behavior and fault-finding and so many different things in the process of devotional service, and ultimately desires or sense gratification will come in. Very dangerous. We have to carefully, especially when we're in a position of responsibility, not ignore the importance of hearing and chanting the message of the personality of God from the right source to help us to root out the root, Vada-Vada-Mudinam, as Goswami says, cut out right down to the root all these tendencies for material sense gratification, whether they're gross or subtle. The subtle ones will take more fire to get rid of. It will turn the fire up more. You can't just keep going, plodding on with the same temperature. It may melt, you know, if you have like a certain temperature, it may melt ice. But if you're trying to melt iron, you're going to have a higher temperature. It's much harder. So the subtle ones are much harder in one sense. They're much harder, and it requires a cable out of day requirement, and it has to be very, very intense to get rid of all the algas right down to the root. Cut it out, remove it entirely. And these verses are explained by constantly. The word is regularly, the actual word is always. 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 Not just regularly, it's always. And that's to become always enough because you're fully absorbed, 10% in hearing and chanting that message. You have to hear from them and associate with them. Of course, there's the services to do, that's also the same vein, but to be fully engaged. Definitely we have to hear the message, the personality of God, and pray. We have to be willing to change. The willingness has to be there on our part to make that change. Therefore, the truthful devotee, not one who's duplicitous. If we're duplicitous, we're going ahead and people who may not be so mature, they may think, oh well, we're doing very nicely, doing great. But the motivation maybe with false ego, with pride and so on, that isn't so great. And has to be eradicated. The truthful devotee wants that to change. He regrets, he repents. He's very unhappy and very regretful that one has this mentality or this feelings towards other devotees, etc., etc. Feelings towards myself of being proud, what have you. It's a very dangerous platform. Putting themselves on the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Morning Class, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam